Good evening, everybody. Happy International Workers' Day. Happy May Day. Happy day. Today, we're going to be talking about the job guarantee. We're going to be talking about the international application of a job guarantee. And given the fact that I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday for the Workers' March and the Workers' World Fair, we were unable to have our regularly scheduled time with Ellis, so we brought Ellis in to do a show on the job guarantee as it pertains to the world and all. So without further ado, let me bring on Ellis. Sir Ellis, welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, Stephen.
How are you tonight?
I'm shorter than ever. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Isn't that wonderful?
So
yeah, I know you're not doing wonderful. You're lying. So am I.
I'm actually.
I'm wearing a tie. How could I fucking be doing wonderful?
Yeah,
look
at
this shit.
Scissors, I would snip it right off, brother. You're even wearing white, dude. It's like you're running for president or something. What's up, man?
No. No.
All right, so let's just kick things off a little bit. Yesterday at the Workers' Fair, I spoke in front of an audience of Green Party, Socialist Alternative, regular Bernie progressives, etc., and spoke at length about how I felt like the federal job guarantee was goal number one because it solves so many problems. And ironically, also, I can easily extrapolate how it even helps the environment on so many levels. But since this is International Workers' Day, May Day, etc., talk to me, Ellis, about this wonderful, wonderful plan and all the ways that we can implement it and the way we can dream about it.
Sure. The first thing that we already know that the government of the United States is a sovereign currency issuing government. We know that the government of the United Kingdom is a sovereign currency issuing government. And we know that the government of Australia is a sovereign currency issuing government. None of these governments can run out of their own currency. So what we know is that we can have full employment. And with a job guarantee, we can have full employment and price stability. Without inflation, no inflation, right? And so what we want to do, since this is International Workers' Day, and we need to reverse the last 40 years of involuntary unemployment. This is forced involuntary unemployment by these governments, all right? And the wage suppression and the union busting. And we want to reverse this trend towards low wage underemployment. What we do, simply put, is we use the currency issuing power of these national governments to buy up all the labor that the market doesn't want and pay it a living minimum wage. And that is the very basis of a job guarantee right there. And I like your hair, Stephen. You're making me jealous. Sir. You're making me jealous right now. Yeah, I'm really jealous right now because it pissed me off because I used to wear my hair similar to that. And my wife won't let me. Never well. You know. So anyway, what we envision is not just one nation, like, well, let's fix the United States and have a job guarantee. We mean to fix the world. We mean full employment for the entire world. The entire Western world fully employed. We're talking about the glory days of the 50s, Nah, this is even better. These are guaranteed jobs. Guaranteed full employment without ever the threat of inflation ending it, okay? The job guarantee, as we've talked about before in this program, is an automatic stabilizer, okay? So what that means is when the national government in question, we'll just say the United States, buys up all the labor that the market doesn't want and pays it that living minimum wage. That living minimum wage becomes the national minimum, okay? Then what happens is a pool of workers is now formed. These are employed workers, all right? Rather than having involuntary unemployment, we now have employed workers, okay, over here, and then you have people working in the private sector over here. And what happens is, in good economic times when there's an expansion, these workers in the job guarantee pool will transfer out of the job guarantee and into higher paying private sector work. And in a downturn, workers will transfer back into the job guarantee. So it's like a buffer. It's a buffer stock, okay? And this transfer happens automatically. Well, what else also happens automatically is the federal deficit rises and falls based on the state of the economy. So it's on autopilot that to always be at the right amount to maintain a situation of full employment in perpetuity. And how that works is real simple. When you have a pool of labor, of job guarantee labor that the federal government is paying the wage, okay, well, the deficit is funding that wage. If the pool shrinks, the amount of labor that the federal government is paying also shrinks, so the deficit drops. And like I said, when there's a downturn and these workers flow back into the job guarantee, what happens is really simple. The deficit begins to rise automatically. It just expands, okay, because there are more workers to pay. So the deficit is automatically managed to maintain full employment in perpetuity. And there's an inflation fighting characteristic of the job guarantee. First off, do you want to say something, Steve?
No, I guess the thing I wanted to ask you, Ellis, because, obviously, people have differing views on what this means. They don't tend to listen before they have that opinion. They tend to have an opinion before they listen. So the idea for me, and, since there is no official job guarantee out there to be had, this is largely what we make of it if we push our elected representatives to do this. And I saw one particular comment that made me think about this, and they said, how do you expect to get this pushed through with this crazy president that we've got in there now? And quite frankly, my belief here is that most of these ideas take more than 15 minutes to come up with and to gain consensus on and get forward out there to a Congress that will actually pass the legislation to begin with. Right. Since most of these people are running around screaming for a basic income rather than thinking it through because they're not economically minded, they really don't understand. They really don't understand a lot of anything, but they think that people need money, so that's the natural inclination to go toward a basic income without realizing the ramifications. So I guess my thoughts here are, this is not something that we'll probably be able to get done tomorrow morning. This is something that's going to require a major push from the bottom to build this grassroots momentum, to force our elected representatives to do whatever version of this we end up working out.
Right.
That's what I wanted to say.
Well, that's true. It's going to take a while. It's not something that we can do overnight. And, the job guarantee is not something that was designed, I thought this up while I was having a piss in the bathroom. That's not what happens, And like you said, the UBI people, the basic income people, they haven't thought this through. Because, this crap began way back in the early 70s, okay? And what we need to remember is that this all began with an attack on labor, an attack on employment, on full employment. They wanted to end full employment for a reason. Then they did so. And then they kept people involuntary unemployed, all right? That's how governments operate. And then they allowed wage suppression and union busting. And now there's low-wage environments and high private debt levels to self-production. Now, after 40 years of this, people are like, jobs, what are jobs? Jobs are useless. Just give me some money. Just give us some money and make everything better, okay? The thing that people don't understand is that a modern monetary economy depends on output. You need output, okay? All right. It's either going to be foreign nations that are going to be funding or that are going to be sending us all their goods and we're going to be buying it, or Americans are going to have to go to work. Something's going to have to happen. Okay? You just can't, here's some money. Okay? That's not going to reverse 40 years of neoliberalism. You have to reverse it by reinstating full employment. Okay? And that's where a basic income guarantee comes in. You can attach it to the job guarantee. and have both. You don't have to sit here and, I got to pick one or the other. So, and like Steve said, it's going to take quite a bit of time to get these neoliberals to agree, which they're not going to do, these neoliberals in Congress. And so it'll probably require a radical push to get them to do it, or we're just going to have to throw out Congress, scrap it, and start over with a new Congress that's willing to do their job correctly. Okay. Well, as far as the job guarantee is concerned, as I said, the deficit goes on automatic, it goes on autopilot there. And so in good times, that pool will shrink, and in bad times it will expand. Now, don't worry about the private sector part yet. Okay. I know people are thinking private sector employment, and they think Walmart, or they think, in England, they think Asda or Peacocks. Yeah, I got it. These are some shitty places to work, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay, do not envision a private sector the way it is today, because the job guarantee will change the private sector. It will enhance the private sector. All right. So let's get back to that minimum wage, that fixed minimum job guarantee wage. All right. The first thing is that it creates a nominal anchor against inflation, and we're also anchoring the currency to labor. All right. This means quite simply that there must be full employment, okay, for the economy to work well, okay, and for the dollar to be happy. All right. If you don't have full employment, if something goes wrong with the dollar anchored to labor, okay, or the pound anchored to labor, you're going to have a problem in the economy. It's not going to be very stable. So, need full employment, first of all. This forces the business leader to accept full employment, all right? And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But as far as the inflation anchor, by pegging, or I should say anchoring the dollar to labor, but with that fixed minimum job guarantee wage, what happens is you're disciplining what we call the growth of real money wages, all right? This prevents inflation. It's a nominal anchor against inflation, so to speak. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you is that every unemployed worker has zero market value. All right? If the market doesn't want them, it's not paying them, so they got no value. All right? It's not inflationary for the government to come in and pay them a minimum wage, to buy them up and pay them a minimum wage. And I'm not just talking about a few. I mean, all labor that wants a job, that can't find one, buy it up. All right? So, the fixed minimum wage, all right, is a nominal anchor against inflation. Also, what's important, like we talked about here, is that hey, Steve, I just want to make sure my sound went out for a second there. I was like, what's going on? I'm talking to nobody. Okay, so anyway. All right, now I forgot where I was, but that's all right. We'll go back anyway. So, onward. So how does it deal with the business leader? Like I said, anchoring the currency to labor also causes a situation of full employment to have to exist. This forces the business leader to accept this. But now how do we deal with that the low-wage environments that are in the private sector? That's where that fixed minimum wage comes in. Society, we the people, will determine what that fixed minimum wage is going to be. We basically sit back and say, what kind of a society do we want to see? Do we want one that's really sophisticated and advanced and recognizes that certain things are actual rights, like having a guaranteed job at a decent wage is a right? Or do we want low-wage environments and wage theft and all the abuse that you see in the private sector today? So if we want to get rid of low-wage producers, the national government, the federal government, the UK government will set that fixed minimum wage high enough to reflect that new standard of living. Okay? So let us assume that the federal government says, okay, the fixed minimum job guarantee wage is $20 an hour. That's the base price of labor. It's using its price-setting capabilities, okay, to set the base price of labor. The price of labor cannot fall below $20. That's the floor in the economy. $20 an hour. What does this do? It forces low-wage producers to pay $20 an hour or more. Okay. Now, very important what happens here. The low-wage producers that refuse to pay this wage, simply put, will have to exit the economy. They have to vacate. They have to get the fuck out. See? They're gone. Done. Bye now. So they'll be off to Vietnam. God help these people in Vietnam, because this is really bad. But they'll be off there, and off to these other countries to look for the slave labor. But they're not going to be bothering us. And then we can still do something, because it's an international movement. We can stop that there as well. But talking about the Western nations for a moment, we get rid of low-wage producers by setting the fixed minimum wage high enough. This means, quite simply, that the job guarantee workers will be paid $20 an hour. I'm not saying that's the wage we've picked. I'm just saying, as an example, they're being paid $20 an hour. This means that for the private sector, to hire these workers, which it can do. It can go into the job guarantee pool and hire these workers out anytime it needs help with production. But for it to do so, it has to pay a premium. It has to pay above the $20 an hour, which means that wages are going to be much better for the unskilled in the private sector. This also has implications for pathetic, useless, trashy business models, all right? Like part-time work, $9 an hour stalker, open availability a month. Yeah, fuck your open availability right there, all right? Because the job guarantee is open availability. The worker can set his own schedule. He can work 1 hour a week to 40 hours a week. He can work any day he chooses, and he can change that at any time he sees fit, he or she. Okay, can't get that in the private sector. So what the private sector is going to have to do to entice these workers out when it needs help, because the economy is starting to boom and it needs help meeting production demand, it's going to have to pay a premium, but it's also going to have to change its business model. There isn't going to be any more of this following your employees around with a microscope, yelling at them all the time. There isn't going to be any of this bullshit. Do you know why? Because there's going to be a job guarantee office in every local community. And if Steve Grumbine were working over there in the UK at Asda, and he was stocking, and the manager's walking around acting like a twat, Grumbine, you lazy twat, get off your ass, and yelling at him and whatnot, Grumbine could say, hey, there's something wrong with my fingers. They say, what's wrong? What's wrong with you, Grumbine? I don't know, but they want to live and do this all the time. I better go to the job guarantee. And he could give them the finger, walk straight out of Asda, straight down the street to the job guarantee center, and have a job that day and be paid starting that day. You don't have to tolerate the bullshit. This forces the employer to change his business model.
Can I make a statement here? I think that there's something that's very important for two very, very white men who are middle-aged, and we get lumped into a lot of privilege conversations, a lot of identity politics, demonization, etc. Understanding where we sit in the totem pole of social order, I want to state for the record, for those people who don't understand that this is very, very much, this is one of the most powerfully enabling concepts for minority communities and all communities as a whole, because wherever the communities are, they determine what is valuable to be compensated in their communities.
Exactly.
What is so incredible. So if hypothetically you're in the nation's capital or you're in Flint, Michigan, wherever you are, the sensibilities of those local areas will be represented in the job guarantee. It will be a democratically elected or democratically decided community-based series of jobs that may not be profitable to the man. Quite frankly, it may have no interest whatsoever in profit. Its purpose is to serve the public purpose. And that public purpose, there's probably some guidelines that the feds would have to put in to ensure that there wasn't anything, off-putting in there. But quite frankly, it really is up to the local communities to decide what they value. And I think for anybody, whether you're white, black, gay, or straight, or anywhere in between, this is a program that allows people to come together and to determine what they value for their communities. So I think this is the ultimate in empowerment, the ultimate in freedom, the ultimate in diversity. It is representative of every community across the nation and, quite frankly, around the globe, as Ellis is doing this rolling wave of job guarantees throughout. I just wanted to put that out there because I think folks sometimes watch two white guys with, silver and black hair sort of talking about these things, and I need them to understand this is for all of us, every one of us. It's a beautiful thing.
Right. Yeah. When I say job guarantee, first of all, I'm not saying white man's job guarantee. All right. I'm talking about human beings, workers. I don't care what color you are. This has nothing to do with color. It doesn't have to do with race, background, or anything. This has everything to do with people who work for a living, or people who want to work for a living. All right. And second of all, they can look and they say, oh, well, there's the white Grumbine and there's that white privileged guy, Ellis. Yeah, it's true that, I have an English heritage. Yeah, that's right. And I'm also Native American. Eastern Cherokee. Thanks for playing. I don't have a bell to ding here, but, enough of this bullshit politics. We're here to talk about saving human lives. We're here to talk about fixing the indignity. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're a victim of neoliberalism, this is the ultimate chance to eradicate neoliberalism and to make your life better. And what Steve mentioned about Flint, Michigan, for instance, the mobility of the job guarantee is another thing, because there is a job guarantee office in every single community. If we were working on a model, say that particular model of the job guarantee was where local governments are funded by the federal government to administer the job guarantee, what will happen is people in Flint, Michigan could immediately assess the situation based on the job guarantee. They would first look at the city of Flint and say, okay, is Flint going to use the job guarantee to address all this blight in our communities? And are they going to address that goddamn water problem? All right. First and foremost, we'll get to the fact that the job guarantee is not infrastructure work. All right. I'll address that in just a moment. But Flint should be addressing its water problem anyway. But let's say that it says, no, we're not going to address that, but we'll do some community beautification to the job guarantee. But as far as our infrastructure goes, no, we're just going to leave the drinking water worthless, kill you if you drink it. Sorry. Any of these communities in Flint, whether, you're white, whether you're black, it doesn't matter. You can easily say, okay, I've had a fuck enough. I'm up. You get in your car, you take your family, you get the U-Haul, you say fuck off, and you drive to another city that has a job guarantee. All right, it's really that simple, and you have guaranteed work when you get there. All you have to do is just make living arrangements. See? So let's say you wanted to, I've always wanted to live near Vail, Colorado. Well, guess what? Near Vail, Colorado, there's a job guarantee office. Okay, there is one, and there's one in Vail as well. So what can you do if you live in Flint, Michigan? Save up just enough money for the gas and your first month's rent on the apartment. Get yourself an apartment, pack the kids up, pack the husband or pack the wife up. Off you go. Walk into the job guarantee office in Vail and tell Flint, fuck you. It's really that simple. You don't have to take it no more. You're empowered. You're empowered to go wherever you want. You go to Alaska if you want. You go to Hawaii if you want. You go to Florida if you want. You have mobility where before you didn't have anything. You had nothing but hopelessness. You had to live in a crumbling infrastructure and toxic water. You don't have to live with that with a job guarantee. Job guarantee gives the working man and woman the freedom of mobility. See that? It's a beautiful thing right there. You can't get that with a basic income. How the hell are you going to do it with $500-600 a month? Or yeah, give me 700 quid a month. How's that going to get me out of London up to somewhere like, say, I don't know, Brighton? Yeah? Oh, well, it's not. It's just not going to happen with all the Tories down in Brighton. No, it's not going to happen. So you're stuck, but not with a job guarantee. The job guarantee everywhere in the United Kingdom is a potential home. Always. Always.
So, Ellis, one of the things that we obviously deal with, and I don't know, I guess we just don't have a broad enough reach, and we can't do the whole Clockwork Orange where we put the toothpicks in the eyes to keep them listening. But, we always get the guy that says, hey, automation and all this stuff. And I think, no matter how many times we say it, it's going to come up because this is kind of this thing that's going to come up. And you'll hear a TED Talk here and there that'll say it and so forth. And the reality is that everywhere I look, there is things that are left undone in our communities. There are things that are not done for our children in schools. Like, I keep thinking back to the days when I would go to school and I'd go to art every day. I'd go to home ec. I'd go to, music class or whatever it was. And there was never an issue. If I wanted to play a sport, it wasn't a big deal. And now all of a sudden, everybody say, oh, we don't have the money for that. We can't do that. We'll have to do a bake sale. We'll have to do something. We'll have to get a big benefactor. And here are things that we could do right now today with the people in our communities, and we could provide them access to doing meaningful things within our community that actually serve the public purpose. This is not about automation, but for some reason these people continue to say it. And I really am trying to figure it out because as much as I grow weary hearing about it, it just doesn't go away. They're relentless with it. So the idea, I guess, is how do we overcome this weird, bizarre fetishizing of this automation and robots thing when the reality is that we're talking about work that isn't really meant for robots. We're talking about a job guarantee for folks to ensure that there is never again involuntary unemployment. For those who want it, this is not a forced program, it's a voluntary program, hence the term involuntary unemployment. How can we address that? I mean,
first of all, people need to stop and understand job guarantee work is not based on monetary profit. This is not private sector work. Get it out of your friggin' heads, all right? Number two, the job guarantee actually advances, automation. It actually moves it faster, makes it happen even faster, Automation can build a car, That's great. Let it build a car. You get the robots coming. They can make an iPhone, Great. Let them make the fucking iPhone. Who cares? No one cares. I don't care. Nobody does. It takes away the drudgery of humans. We no longer have to sit there and drudge about and do useless, repetitive tasks. Now labor is freed up to do something else. And that's the same story since the Industrial Revolution. This automation thing is the same old BS that you had. Oh, machines are taking our jobs. Machines are taking our jobs. There won't be any use for us anymore. 150, 170, 180 years later, people are still working. How's that possible? And then you look at Captain Kirk up there at the bridge of the Enterprise, and you figure, what the fuck's he doing there with all that automation? All right? A robot can't be a police officer. Now, I get these UBI people all the time saying what I'm about to say. I say, when C-3PO comes, give me a call. Then I'll listen to your argument. People say, oh, well, Ellis, he's not understanding. He doesn't understand what automation is today, how it's so much different. He doesn't understand the UBI. He doesn't understand. Yes, I do. I understand that a police officer cannot be a robot. It's not possible. A robot's not going to be the garbage man to take the trash away. Robots are not going to construct a skyscraper. You're going to need humans to do this as well. All right? So just knock it off. All right? But when C-3PO comes, give me a call. I'll listen to this crap. All right? We'll talk about something else. But right now, a monetary economy requires output. Somebody's going to have to do output, whether it's a robot or whether it's a human. In this case, automation simply frees up more humans to do socially productive work. And like I said, job guarantee work is not based on monetary profit. These are not private sector jobs. Right? So there you have it.
And you know, the funny thing is, and Alice, this is one of the other ones that maybe is, I don't know if it's nauseating or not, but it's definitely up there. The idea that they look at in a rear view mirror at jobs of yesteryear.
Yeah,
they see that there aren't people out there with little hammers and little things, you know, tapping on aluminum to make, you know, whatever it is. They have machines doing that too. And, you know, we don't use horses and buggies anymore. We use automobiles and planes and stuff like that. So obviously things change. The only thing constant in this world is change. Mm-hmm. But if you fetishize, you know, a lack of imagination, if you fetishize employment from Eugene V. Debs in the Industrial Revolution, chances are this is going to fly right over your head. It'll be above your ability to see. And the hope is that we can wake enough people up, you know, and de-fetishize these folks so that they actually think for a minute, so they can understand that so much of our public purpose, I mean, think about this for real. Women are forced to stay in marriages right now, men too, quite frankly, but women in this particular sense, because still men are typically the breadwinner even today. So they stay in these bad relationships because they're afraid they're going to lose their benefits. They're afraid of destitution, what have you. Here's another social out of that arrangement where women, possibly if the community decides that raising children is a vital public purpose role, that could be compensated as work. And
no, it could just be a job.
That's right.
End of story. Like I said, these are not based on monetary profit. These jobs are not based on monetary profit. They're not private sector jobs. You got to get that out of your head. And if you can safely and securely redefine the concept of work. Work at its essence is just energy expenditure. All right? It's got nothing to do with someone being able to make money off of what you're doing. Work is energy expenditure for a particular activity. Whether you're working at Walmart, expending that energy, or whether you're doing it working for the British government, okay? Or whether you're lying in bed recovering from the flu or fishing on a lake, you are working, okay? So stop conflating Laverne and Shirley's factory or what Schott's brewery as a job, and that's all that jobs can be. No, I'll explain right now. I'm going to hold this up here. I'm going to cover up my membership number. I'm a founding member, I'm a co-owner of FC United of Manchester, a football club in England up there in Manchester. And the football club does amazing things in the community. Okay, first of all, it's a living wage employer. It's owned by the supporters themselves. So all the profits go back into the football club, but they spend some of those profits and some of the funding that they get, they help to do things in local communities. One of the things they do is they work with what we call in America at-risk kids and at-risk families. In the UK, these are vulnerable people, all right? And what this means is consider old people, okay, that were once married, now the spouse has died, and they're kind of old and they live alone. They don't have family come visit them. They live alone in their home, or they live alone at a nursing home, let's say, okay, a care facility. What FC United does is it sends volunteers around once a week to these elderly people's homes that live alone, and they have nice visits. They come and they visit the people, and they look in on them, and they have talks and stuff, you know, and they have tea and whatnot. And the old people love it because they get a chance to converse with a human being. Someone's caring. And they come to the house, and they're kind to these people, and the old people want them to keep coming back. Yeah? Right, there's a job guarantee job. If there were a job guarantee tomorrow in England, FC United would be ecstatic to have funding sent their way to help with that particular form of work, going and meeting going to the old people's homes that live alone and taking care of them. And they could even raise it to 2 visits a week. With more, they could hire as many volunteers as they needed, because the currency issuing UK government would be funding that completely. So if FC United said, hey, we needed like 20 people, okay, for 2 days a week, no problem. It's already funded. Go do it, man. Just got to find the workers. And guess what? Plenty of people that would want to do it for a living minimum wage plus benefits. All right? So don't give me the tack that jobs are only factory work or private sector work. That's legitimate work right there. And remember what I said. These people are working in a pool. Okay? At any time, the private sector that does the goods and services, the increase of the goods and services that we have, can easily hire from that pool by simply paying higher than the JG wage. Hey! All right?
It's interesting. Yesterday at the Workers' March and Fair, World Trade Fair, or Workers' World Fair, or whatever it's called, I was speaking to some of the Green members there, and they said one of the difficult things about their Green New Deal is that they didn't literally know how to make it happen. They didn't know how to pay for it. They didn't really, it was just a bunch of bullet points. They're great ideas that we all love and know and so forth. But they didn't really have any means of actually getting it done. Jill Stein would often talk about an employment office versus an unemployment office on every corner in every community, et cetera, et cetera. So this is something that should be extremely appealing to Greens out there.
Exactly.
Because this is exactly what Jill was talking about. The difference is that we're adding a layer of substance to the talking points. We're telling you that we can pay for it, and we're talking about modern monetary theory and the understanding of sovereign currency and the ability to spend on the people and the public purpose.
Right.
So I guess my concern here is that oftentimes I will see these folks that are so revolutionary, they're so revolutionary that people have to die in order to achieve their version of these things. And because it's not said in a way that maybe makes them feel like slipping on their Birkenstocks and drinking, some special organic tea, they miss the point altogether. And it's a shame because this is something that could appeal across the entire spectrum politically. Yeah. This is doable if we stop shooting ourselves in the foot with the special snowflake syndrome, which I see prevalent in our movement. If we could care enough about people to survive, instead of having our pet peeves and our pet things and all these little things that we like to focus on, this right here is 100% a life-saving plan. Because how many people else die every year from unemployment? I think it was like 45,000 commit suicide.
Suicide, yeah. 1 in 5 suicides are unemployment related. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I guess for me at this point, Alice, what I'm trying to figure out is how we can mobilize, this so-called movement when, what exactly is it? I know John Conyers has put out a bill every year or less forever. It's not really written very well. It's not written with an understanding of how currency flows in our federal government. It's revenue neutral, meaning that they're going to jack taxes up to do it, but it's a start. How can we try and get some momentum there? Is this really where we need to put our efforts? I mean,
towards Congress?
Well, towards a federal job guarantee in relationship to priorities, and if you want to go algebra, order of operations. Where does the federal job guarantee stack up in terms of its place? It is the core, exactly.
No, the reason why it's the core is real simple. It eliminates involuntary unemployment, okay? And it does so without inflation. And then the job guarantee itself can also fight inflation, all right? So the interesting thing about the job guarantee, and the reason why it's at the core of that, is because, let me see if I can explain it this way where people would understand. You have to, in order to have some kind of chance at prosperity, you have to reverse the last 40 years of what's been going on. Like I said, the wage suppression, okay, and the involuntary unemployment to fight non-existent inflation, the Naira economy. You got to reverse all that. You got to reverse all this private debt escalation, okay, and this GDP redistribution to the 1%. This all has to be reversed. I mean, you can have universal health care and you can have, the free college education and whatnot and do your infrastructure work, but what good is this going to do to people if we haven't dealt with the core issue? The core issue is persistent involuntary unemployment and low-wage environments, constant recessions, okay? If we have these recessions going about and people are thrown into involuntary unemployment with nowhere to go, all right, what good is this to anybody, all right? You could have your universal health care, but what good is that? You know, you got 40,000, 50,000 people in this city that's lost a job due to mass unemployment from a recession. I mean, we've got to deal with that, all right? So that's at the core. And reversing neoliberalism, the core is the job guarantee because it addresses full employment. It takes back what was stolen, all right? All of the problems that you see today, okay, all the problems of the last 40 years are all related to the intentional ending of full employment, all right? But this is a new type of full employment that we're talking about, all right? We're not just talking about wondering about, oh, well, the private sector, make sure the private sector can create some jobs here. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a solid buffer stock of public sector workers. They don't work for the federal government. They're only funded by the federal government. They work in their local communities, all right? And you have this stock of guaranteed workers at a guaranteed wage. And it's their wage that creates a situation of price stability, okay, and gets rid of these low-wage producers, all right? Excuse me. The job guarantee itself is the core of the progressive agenda. And like I said, because it's the one thing that punches neoliberalism in the face, and it can't get back up off the map.
Ellis, can I take a layman's shot at this, being the activist of the two of us? So, you know, for those people that are not familiar with this, and I recognize that, you know, Ellis and I do a lot of 101 type classes on the economics behind this, and we can't do the same show every single day. Otherwise, people just tune out. And the object here is to continue to grow and build and so forth. But for those of you who are new to what we're talking about, and I see a few of you out there, and I appreciate you coming and joining us today. Bottom line is that in a nation that is monetarily sovereign, like the United States or the UK or Australia or Canada, Japan, you name it, Russia, etc., the nation is able to spend onto its population. It's able to spend all over the place, quite frankly. And you see this repeatedly when we drop bombs. You see this repeatedly when we do a host of things. And nobody ever talks about where you're going to get the money for it. Nobody ever asks us, what about inflation? Nobody ever asks us about any of that stuff. They're just, whatever, man. I don't want my tax dollars paying for bombing. And the good news, bad news there is you're not. Your taxes don't fund spending. Your tax dollars are literally deleted upon receipt. So the idea here is we're trying to take it so you understand that the nation is not constrained, that the lies you hear from the right wing and even the center-right Democratic Party, they're all lies. Every ounce of it is a effing lie. And the role here is for us is to teach you guys so that we can demand better, ask better. And unfortunately, so many in our midst just are perpetually stuck and receiving dog bones, and they're willing to take table scraps, and they don't really pay attention. So our goal here is to not only educate on the basics of fundamental economics in a modern monetary economy, but also be able to stretch your mind to see the policy prescriptions that this avails us to. So the federal job guarantee is ground zero of that because it forever eliminates involuntary unemployment. And so what Ellis is talking about is this is not just a national phenomenon that we could do. It's also a global thing that we could do, a movement, if you will, that we could make employment a right. So, and that would end a lot of problems in the world, wouldn't it?
Yes, if it were from the United States, for instance, or in the UK, we could force both the UK and Australia, for instance, all at once. We could apply pressure on all these governments all at once through a massive international movement for a job guarantee. You know, it's not something we should just do in one nation. This is something, neoliberalism isn't just particular to one nation. Okay, it's spread all over the world like a virus and is deeply ingrained. So you can't just fight it from the United States and that's it. You're going to have to fight everywhere. So that's why I encourage Americans to take an interest in UK politics, how the parliamentary system works, what's going on over there with their fight with the NHS to save it. You know, take an interest in Australia with that housing bubble down there and the stupidity of Scott Morrison. I mean, if you thought Dan Quayle was bad, wait till you hear this man. This guy's horribly confused, and he's the treasurer of Australia. Think about it. So, you know, get involved with other countries as well. And one of the ways you can do it is help press for a job guarantee. Because the job guarantee is the job guarantee no matter what nation it's in. All right? It's all the same thing. So there's only one thing to learn there, you know?
Hey, Alice, but I just one of these silly questions real quick so we can move a little bit further on down the road with this. And this is a slight departure from what we were saying. Just real quickly, what's backing our currency? What's backing our money?
Taxation. It's federal taxation.
Right?
I say, well, it's backing. Fiat currency is just a free-floating, inconvertible currency. Okay, it's just issued at will by the government when it spends. So what we're saying is that when the government spends, all federal spending is dollar creation, and all federal taxation is dollar destruction, it's dollar deletion. Okay, the federal taxes are a sufficient condition to cause a demand for that currency. So as long as the federal government can enforce its tax collections, in other words, as long as people are afraid of going to prison for not paying their taxes, or the majority of people are afraid of being penalized in some sort of way for not paying their federal taxes, and the federal government can bring a gun and enforce that, then there will be a demand for the US dollar. But the demand for the US dollar is not driven by foreign nations or the petrodollar or that. It's driven by federal taxation. It's a sufficient condition that causes demand to exist.
So ultimately, if people didn't hear that clearly, let me just state for the record, you can't pay your taxes in chicken necks, frog legs, cotton balls,
iPhones and gold dust,
marijuana, diamonds, barrels of petro. You can't bring your petrodollars in and pay your taxes.
Right. You've heard the libertarians, Steve, haven't you? You've heard them say, well, what if I want to use British pound? Or what if I want to use paper clips as money? Or what if I don't want to use the dollar? I could use makeup if I want. You can't tell me what to do. I've got money. You see that? Yeah, that's all great and fine. You libertarians can go out and use a pair of reading glasses, okay, as money, all you want. But the one problem is the federal government will not accept these reading glasses. Idiot. They'll only accept US dollars. And if you ain't got them, your libertarian ass is going to prison. So guess what? You got to figure out a way to get a hold of them. How do you do that? You get a fucking job. Eh? Okay. And then you're paid in US dollars. And then what you do? You pay your fucking taxes. Okay? Or you go and you borrow the money from grandma. But she's not going to give you British pounds. Grandma's going to give you dollars. That's the whole point. You can't pay your taxes in anything but US dollars. So you're forced to go out and get them. Whether you sell goods to the government in exchange for dollars to get the dollars, or whether or not you go get a job at a company, or you start your own business. You've got to find dollars to pay your taxes, or you're going to prison, or you're going to lose your house. The government's going to show up with men in dark glasses and guns, and they're going to say, that's mine. And there ain't shit you can do. I don't care how libertarian you are. You're going to lose it all.
Okay? Tax force, dude. Taxes force and stuff.
No, Article 1, Section 8, U.S. Constitution.
Amen, brother. All right, so we went through the 101 real quick. We don't have time for all that. We only got like 10 minutes left before John Lancelot comes on. I think the most important thing for me is this. I'll tell a personal anecdote real quick that I think is why this program speaks so heavily to me. I was caught up in the crash of 2008, 2009. And when I lost my 17-year career at Ma Bell, and all my life, you'll hear me oftentimes talking about crawling on the floor, looking out the slats in the window as I was waiting for somebody to come to repossess my house, repossess my car, repossess my life. There was always somebody parking their car just out of eye shut. It was a process server. dressed like a nun, dressed like, the UPS man, whatever, Pineapple Express all the way, coming to give me another piece of paper to tell me what a horrible person I was because I was not economically viable.
Yeah.
This was horrible. You want to talk about looking up in the rafters in my basement, sizing myself for a noose. This is the kind of stuff that makes for a short life.
And 1 out of 5 people size themselves up for a noose and then they do it.
That's exactly correct. So when I talk to you about this program and my desire to see it implemented, I speak to you as one who has dealt with long-term horrific unemployment. And folks, I'm no slouch. I've got a couple master's degrees, 3 semesters into a PhD. I've had certifications out the ass. My name with all the letters next to it was like this, and I still couldn't find work. And so what ends up happening? That was very interesting. Here we go. We're still live, folks. Hopefully you didn't drop off.
Goddamn Rothschilds keep trying to shut us down. It's not going to work. Why don't you guys go back and play with your central banks? Damn Rothschild.
But the whole idea here is that when I talk about this stuff, every story that you hear me talk about is born in pain that I've experienced, and I don't want you or someone else or my kids to have to ever experience. I don't give a crap if anybody even likes me. This is about saving lives. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. When you go to bed and your chest is radiating with pain from anxiety, when you can't get comfortable and you toss and turn because you literally can't sleep, and then you're forced to figure out what to do with you, and you go 3 and 4 days of not sleeping because you're so stressed out that you're going to lose everything under the sun. And I'm not just talking about financial stuff or goods and stuff. I'm talking about your very existence. Folks, I have an ascending aortic aneurysm. It's not fully blown, but I have one. And the cost to get it paid for was too great. And when I was unemployed, there wasn't a prayer in hell. I may as well have eaten a bullet. I may as well have eaten a bullet. Now, if you think I'm fucking with you, if you think this is something that we could, well, what about automation? And what about this stuff? Folks, I am talking to you about life and death stuff. You can go play Isaac Asimov over there. I'm trying to save lives. And that's what I'm hoping we can get this movement to get away from. Because, Claudia talked earlier today about how the climate is heading down the shitter too. So the economics that Ellis and I talked about that facilitate the job guarantee also facilitate a quick, prompt shift to green energy as soon as we get our head out of our asses and stop trying to talk about the gold standard, our money's not backed by, whatever. Go away. We need people that really want to save our planet and save our fucking country and save people around the world. And those are the people I'm talking to. Those are the people I believe Ellis is talking to. And if somehow or another we can get some of these folks that can't get out of their own way to come on board, that's all the better. But we really, really need everyone on board to make these changes happen. Ellis, I'm sorry. I just wanted to go on that tangent. It's so important.
People that you're talking about there, once again, that refuse to come aboard and they want to sit and talk about a gold standard. These people are followers. I don't mean that with any disrespect, just the fact. It's easier to follow people around and repeat what other people say rather than think critically. Okay. So basically what will happen is if they truly want change, they truly want green energy, they want full employment, they want universal health care. When the momentum builds to a critical level and this whole thing is irresistible, they'll come along. They'll just come along with the momentum. You'll probably find some of them saying, oh yeah, I knew it all along. Oh, I've been saying this all along. So, Steve, you'll have to run your mouth at that point and say, no, I've got posts from you and I've seen your Twitter feed, and I've got proof that no, you haven't always been saying that. In case you want to be an asshole about it, But
hey, Rich, hold on. Hey, I want to first off. Let me say this real quick. I'm going to put this up here. I got to meet Rich Serber yesterday, and Rich has been following us. I got to meet his family. He's got 7 beautiful children. We were competing for who's going to have the most. And he let me know point blank that he's got grandkids, so he's outing me here. But this is somebody who genuinely loves what we're doing and is a real supporter here. And he has a real legitimate desire to see these things come to fruition because of his beautiful family. And I just think that, for me, these are the kinds of stories I would like to spend more time highlighting, showing people that really, that get it. I'm tired of, quite frankly, it's almost like teen angst, they got their hood on, their dark makeup and everything's blue. Yeah, dude, like life sucks and stuff, like totally, I want to see people out there really fighting for change. And Rich, I want to thank you very much for meeting us yesterday. That was a really, really wonderful experience. I'm glad you got to come out and see us in D.C. Anyway. All right, Ellis, we got 4 minutes, so I'm going to let you take us out, brother.
Sure. Job guarantee jobs aren't infrastructure work either. Okay. We're not talking about building roads in concrete. These are low capital intense. So I'm going to leave you with a shocker. I've heard people say before, oh, well, a job guarantee can't just be anything you want it to be. I mean, what if I want to surf? Can I be paid, can I be paid to surf? The answer is yes. Okay. And it's easy once you understand they're not private sector jobs. And you understand that there's not jobs that are attached to monetary profit, and they're not infrastructure. What happens is simple. Let's say that there's a local community in California, say Los Angeles, and it's concerned about the water pollution. It says one of our problems in California is water pollution. Along the beaches there, and we'd like to reduce that. Well, surfer comes in to the job guarantee office, and he says, looking for a job, and they say, what can you do? We said, well, I really like to surf. So, okay, well, we got a job for you. You can go ahead and surf. We'll pay you to surf. Just while you're out there, would you take some water samples and collect them each day? And at the end of the day, when you're on your way home, drop them off at the collection facility. Yeah, sure. Okay, job. Now you're being paid to surf. Why? Because the community finds a use for it. It's up to the community to decide what's useful. Okay? And if you think, as a member of the community, that they're not addressing certain needs that you see, you can easily stand up at your local, government. Go to the government meeting, the local government meeting, and voice and say, look, we should be doing this. We should be doing that. You can petition your local government, and they'll listen to you. Everything's done locally. All the hiring and the administration and all the job selection and all the things that are going to be done are decided locally, okay? So, and like I said, we eliminate involuntary unemployment forever. It's all gone, never to come back again. We eliminate low-wage environments, and we attenuate inflation. How? Simple. When the private sector starts inflating from, say, a wage price spiral or whatnot, all that happens is when the government has to manipulate or adjust fiscal policy, all that's going to happen is the workers that lose the job in the private sector will just seamlessly transfer over into the job guarantee without losing their jobs. No unemployment, no inflation, no trade-off. Simple, okay? So this is a progressive thing. It's something that we need to be doing, and it's something that we can be pushing for in every Western nation, to reverse neoliberalism. Yeah, and if we, like we were talking the other day, if we put the basic income guarantee into that package, then the basic income guarantee has a chance to actually be progressive and have some use. Okay, besides being a subsidy for the low-wage underemployer. Okay, so it's time for a job guarantee. This is, as Cheneva would say, completing the Roosevelt Revolution. That's exactly what we're intending on doing. Amen.
All right, great. So, Ellis, with that, let's go ahead and just pass the baton. John Lancelot will be going on momentarily. Tomorrow night, I will have Jolton Joe Firestone come on with me. And folks, I just want to thank you all for supporting us. You guys have been wonderful. And Ellis, thank you so much for being flexible and jumping on here tonight. With that, have a great night, everybody. We're out. We'll see you on a regularly scheduled time, Sunday night, 8 p.m. next time with Ellis. Have a good night, everyone.